do you have any concerns before we start? Anything? Or we'll start now? Medyo taas gila itong coverage gamay-gamay. Dili education super taas. I just want to make sure nga we can cover everything before the quiz on Thursday. So, if there are no more concerns, so let me start my presentation. Okay, so I will just change later happen. May part na medyo dili mabasa sa Google slide. Balik ako later. Okay na, kita na ninyo. Okay. So this afternoon, we're going to discuss section 2, chapter 1 of lesson 3. So let's start with the sampling designs review. So as agreed last meeting, I will have a short review of the sampling designs. So basically class, sampling designs are actually used to be able to select your respondents based on your target population. So there are two types of sampling procedures. You have the probability and the non-probability sampling. So let's start with the probability sampling. Probability sampling class are actually methods or sampling procedures which uses probability in their selection process. So wala gyud ginatawag na rin nga self-selection. Before na ako'y gipangutana, I asked that group, how did you select your respondents? Ingon sila nga, we do it using random sampling, ma'am. Ingon ko, how random is random? They say, sa makit-ang lang namo sa market, ma'am. So I told them, kung dili man na siya random sampling. Because when you do random sampling or you do probability sampling, you must have a frame in hand. Say frame. That's a list of your respondents. So the list of your respondents will then be used. So kung magamit mo simple random sampling, step 1, ikat na ninyo per name or nambiran baka na ninyo, then you put it in a fishbowl. Dayon magdara, dayon mo mag-select sa inyong respondents. So, or you can have table random number generator as your kana na dayon siya ang mag-select sa inyong respondents using table of random numbers. So that's what with our simple random sampling. The major drawback lang sa itong simple random sampling class is that when there are kanang majority nga group inside our target population. Example, if our target population has 40 medtech students and only 20 radtech students, so that's a problem kaya namatay majority group. So sahay or ibutan na tog 10 na kabuok ang minority group. So sahay, since we are only using simple random sampling, usually ang mahitabo is ang makuha usually nga sample are those coming from the majority group. And even napugihapoy times nga dili gani makuha responses kung kato mga tao coming from the minority group. So that's with the simple random sampling. So we have another sampling procedure. Muna siya pinaka-the best among all the probability sampling, our stratified random sampling. Stratified random sampling uses strata. Meaning, ang imong target population class, iyahan ang i-regroup into strata. And from those strata, or each strata must have representative para sa inyong sample. So basically, siya ang maka-create of best sample among the probability sampling. So basically, in stratified sampling, the bigger the subgroup, the bigger the number of samples. Pero dili ta mag-worry because all the subgroups will have their representatives. So bisan pag pinakagamay nga subgroup na agyon na sila representative in a stratified sampling. Usahay magod, when using simple random sampling, gamay na kayo, sa slim kayo ang chance na lang sa smaller subgroup to have their representative tungod kay ang selection process is through fishbowl method lang. So ingana man na siya. So muna usahay sa lottery, kabantay mo, more entries, more chances of winning. So mo po na sa kasagara sa simple random sampling. Now, usahay, ang problem usahay lang po sa stratified sampling class is actually ang regrouping. What will be my basis for regrouping, or what will be my basis for creating strata? Will I base it on their nationality? Will I base it on their religion? Based ba sa ilahang blood type? Or based ba sa ilahang gender? So, ang aim man po sa stratified random sampling is to be able to create mutually exclusive subgroups. So, from these mutually exclusive subgroups, you will pick na dayon your or get your stratified sample by using systematic sample from each of the strata. Okay, so even in the selection process for strata, naagid dapat involve ang probability. So that's probability sampling. Number 3 is your systematic sampling. From the word systematic, meaning naa siya system na ginagamit. So systematic sampling class uses sampling interval. Sampling interval by the way, before ko makalimot, nakajot lang. Nade ko'y persons nga inipuan, equal ang attention. For a while lang ha. Later mag-meta, it's a to ha. Para dili ko kalimot. Scobio and Soria, please stay later ha. If you are around, ha, Scobio and Soria, please stay after the class ha. Mag-talk sa ta. Okay, na ako'y importante nga ingon sa inyo ha. Dili man siya kuwan ha. Dili siya something na kuwan na. Nala ko'y concern lang. Okay? Okay, so let's proceed to systematic sampling. So systematic sampling, from the word systematic, meaning it creates a system on how you select respondents. So usually it starts with a sampling interval. How do you compute your sampling interval? The sampling interval is computed using the formula big N, meaning the population size, divided by the sample size. So for example, your population size is 12 and your sample size is 3. So your sampling interval is equal to 4. So suppose your I is your first sample is equal to 1. Pero ang selection process, simple random sampling gahapon ha. Meaning the starting point, probability gahapon ang involved So I is your first sample, 1 is your first sample, so your sampling interval is 4. So 1 plus 4 is 5 plus 4 is 9. So that's your systematic sampling. And lastly, by the way, ang problem by the way sa systematic sampling class, if naapoy sa interval ang imuhang target population. Example, mag-sample ka og kahoy. Example, mag-sampling ka sa mga kahoy, fruit trees. What if every fifth tree is a mango tree? So basically, ang imong systematic sample consists of all mango tree, which is dili na mo ang target sa atong sample. Ang target nato sa atong sample class is dapat it should consist of heterogeneous sample. It must be a heterogeneous sample, meaning naa tanan element nga naa sa imong target population. Okay, so that's systematic sampling. Lastly, we have the cluster sampling. So the first 3 class nga probability sampling.
Stationary yung mga slide, ma'am.
Asa na mo po?
Dili yung mga slide.
Mora niya akong slide, yes. Ako na summarize naman ko.
So hindi na ako nag-log, sorry.
Wala. Don't worry, I have already posted this one in your stream. Anapod ni siya dito, ha? Together with the Z table, which will be used later. Okay, dili ako na siya i-review, ha? So cluster sampling is a type of probability sampling class for area sampling, meaning large area sampling siya. Kaya ang usually ginagamitan sa cluster sampling class is kung ang area ka ng very large, example, magkuan ta og Cagayan de Oro City, atong target population, and we cluster it by barangay. So if Cagayan de Oro City have 50 barangays, the selection process of those barangay must be using simple random sampling. So suppose you randomly select 3. Barangay 1, barangay 34, and barangay 15. Everyone in this kaning mga barangay must be included as your respondent. So everyone. So ang problem usahay sa cluster sampling class is that ang iyahang less representation of the other clusters. Okay, cluster naman ang imong gipili, so unsaon na lang ang responses sa uban nga cluster. So that's a problem with cluster sampling. So next, let's review about non-probability sampling. So non-probability sampling class consists of course of 4 again non-probability sampling. From the word non-probability, meaning dili na ta mag-involve of probability in the selection process niya. So number 1 is the convenience sampling. From the word convenience, it is the least desirable technique, especially sa inyong research. Convenience. Suppose na may research and you only chose your closest friends to answer your research. That's convenience sampling. Suppose you have a research and you only use your telephone, asking any person nga imong makontak as your respondents. That's convenience sampling. Moadto ka sa mga mangatag ka og mga leaflets or mga questionnaires sa bisag kinsa nga tawo imong makitaan. That is convenience sampling. So it involves a lot of errors in the summarization of your data. That's a problem with convenience sampling. Usually ginagamit ni siya sa marketing. Kanang marketing mo pa-answer bitaw o kanang which do you prefer, kaning nga sabon or kaning nga sabon. So ingana sa mga marketing strategies, usually convenience sampling ilang ginagamit. Second is the purposive sampling. From the word purposive, meaning on a specific purpose lang siya. So, for example, gusto ko mangutana about effectivity of vaccine. So, dito ko sa mga expert ana. Gusto ko mangutana about farming. So, magto ko sa mga farmers. Gusto ko mangutana o about mga techniques on fishing. So, magto ko sa fisherman. Daghan kaayo og types ang purposive sampling class. Na ako siya ginatawag na total population sampling. Meaning, kung gamay ra kayo imong population, you do total population, sila na lang tanan ang imong kuhaan og responses. Napot tayo isa ka ng maximum variation sampling. Kung gusto kag taas og variability ang imong kuhaan, dito ka sa maximum variation sampling. So, there are actually a lot of types in purposive sampling. The third one is quota sampling. This is closely related to your stratified sampling because in quota sampling, usually gagamit ko na siya strata or subgrouping. Pero, ang iyahalang kalainan sa strata class or stratified sampling is that ang selection process niya is unlike your stratified sampling wherein you use simple random sampling in your selection process to attain your desired number of samples per strata. In quota sampling, it's not. Because as long as you reach your necessary quota for a certain subgroup, okay na. Bahala pa kinsa. As long as, example, imong target population, kung may mong 15% na ang male, 10% ang female, that's okay. Basta ma-attain na nako ang quota. Ang pag-select, wala problema kay dili man siya magamit of probability sampling. Lastly is the snowballing sampling. Ang snowballing sampling ginagamit ni siya usually when we want to search for people nga usually high sa society. For example, drug victims, HIV victims, mayan abang ang mga people. Example na po na sila. They usually hide themselves from society. Kaning snowballing sampling class is otherwise known as network sampling. Kay gagamit ko na siya mga chain referrals. So, kung ako isa ka referral, mga ko referral isa ka tao, or first respondent na ko, mahayar ako isa lang ka referral sa yaha, so makakit na ko duha, kung makakatag siya isa, mangayon na po kong isa, so another, so ingan na siya. Meaning from a small na snowball, magkadako siya, kung ipaligid siya across down the cliff. So muna concept sa snowballing sampling. Na siya tulo ka types, ang linear, exponential non-discriminative, o exponential discriminative type of sampling procedure. So that ends the review for non-probability and probability sampling. Now let's proceed to probability. So probability class is the chance or likelihood of an event to happen. Example, what is the chance that tonight it will rain? So that is subjective probability. Then you say maybe there is a 60% chance of nga mo rain karong hapon, or there is 40% chance po nga dili. So nga na ang probability. The value of probability class ranges from 0 to 1. Or in percentages, we say 0% to 100%. Kung 100% siya, meaning sure na yun na siya. Kung 0%, meaning dili yun na siya mahitabo. Ha? Wala tayo ginatawag nga 101%. That's wrong. So in probability, we have two types. So the unconditional probability and the conditional probability. So here is our example. We consider the data below that shows the number of gadget addictiveness among children 5 to 10 years of age who are seeking medical care. So, in the unconditional probability, we say probability of selecting a boy. So, how many boys are there? So, you have 2, 5, 60 over 5 to 90. So, that's a probability of selecting a boy. The probability of selecting a 7-year-old, so we have the 7-year-old na bata as 913 divided by the total population, that's 5 to 90. So that is the probability of selecting a 7-year-old. Next, in the conditional probability. So we have here the probability of a characteristic is equal to the number of persons with the characteristic divided by n. So for example, we have the probability of a 9-year-old girl given nga girl siya. So how many girls are there nga 9-year-old? So we have 460 divided by the total number of girls. So we have 730. So this is equal to 0.16 or 0.17, 0.169. So let's proceed to normal distribution. So the normal distribution class are basically to connect our z-scores that we had discussed last meeting, ato siya i-connect sa atong normal distribution. Ang total area under the curve and above the horizontal axis is 1 or 100% based on the concept of probability. So some of the characteristics of a normal distribution is that, number 1, it is symmetric, meaning kanang sa 16, that is our mean. So the left side and the right side ng 16 is actually symmetric. It is unimodal, meaning isa ra kabuk yang mode, and the mean, median, and mode are all equal. Excuse me. Asymptotic, meaning the curve and the horizontal axis extends to positive and negative infinity, but it will never touch. So that's asymptotic. So again, the total area under the curve and above the horizontal axis is equal to 1 or 100%. So to further emphasize the concept of normal distribution and ato siya i-connect sa atong naibalaan nga z-scores last meeting. So we have here example, you join a crab catching contest. Bahin sa ako ha. I need the table. Okay, so you join in a crab catching contest. So the sizes of the crabs is normally distributed with a mean of 16 and a standard deviation of 4. What is the chance of catching crabs that are less than 8 centimeter? B, what is the chance of winning a prize if the prize is offered for any crabs over 24 centimeter? And what is the chance of catching crabs between 16 centimeter and 24 centimeter? Okay. Ang first na yung buhaton is actually to draw a picture. So you draw a graph. So on horizontal axis and a bell-shaped curve. So ano yung first buhaton. At the center, dara ninyo abot ang mean. Because it is linear, meaning na ang mean, median, and mode. Kung asa ang mean. So in our example, we have the mean as 16. Our standard deviation will then be used as kanang values to the right and to the left of our graph. So to the right, we add the standard deviation up to 3 lang. Kaya beyond 3 standard deviation, the area is already very, very slim. So the probability or chance or likelihood nga ang event mahitabo pa na dirang daplita is already 0.0000 ana na gyud siya level. So munang usually normal distributions, when we draw normal distributions up to 3 ra gyud siya. The standard deviations and beyond gamay kay naman siya arrow. So to the right, you add the standard deviation. So 16 plus 4, that's 20, plus 4, 24, plus 4, 28. Going down, minus na po din yung standard deviation. So 16 minus 4 is 12, minus 4, that's 8, minus 4, that's 4. Then locate the problems in the graph. So the first problem is less than 8. So nanadara ang less than 8, no? Less than 8. Then ang next problem is greater than 24. So that's 24 and above. And then the third problem is between 16 to 24. So kanang medyo dark lang siya gamay. So next is to transform the x values into z-scores. So we only have 3 numbers here, 16, 8, and 24. And since 16 is equal to the mean, basically ang 16, mahimo na siyang 0 automatic. So when x is 8, the z-score is equal to 8 minus 16 divided by 4, which is equal to negative 2. When x is 24, z-score equals 24 minus 16 divided by 4, so it is equal to 2. So now, from normal distribution with any mean other than 0 and standard deviation, any value other than 1, we have probability of x lesser than 8. So mahimo siya into a z-score of with a mean of 0 and a standard deviation of 1. So from probability of x lesser than 8, mahimo siyang probability of z lesser than negative 2. From From probability of x greater than 24, mahimo siyang probability of z greater than 2. Number 3, from probability of x between 16 to 24, mahimo siyang probability of z between 0 to 2. Now, let's answer the first problem, probability of z lesser than negative 2. Okay, so nakita na ninyo. So, ganiha, itong first problem is z lesser than negative 2. Okay, kung tanawon ninyo ang iyahang graph class ha, tanawon ninyo yung graph, to the left na siya ha, that's to the left. Now, let's take a look at the graph of this one. Diba? Almost the same siya o wala lang siya specific value sa Z. Pero kung tanawon ninyo ang graph, pareho na siya og nawong adto. Meaning, ani class, is that this table, although daghan kaayo og standard normal probability nga table ha inyo nga makitaan, pero in this table class, when you want to use this one, excuse me. Okay, so when you want to use this one, this table actually computes area from the center of the distribution to the left. So that is why, when ningali ganin when ningali ganin yung problem, naka-Z na ganin ni siya, ayos sa ninyo gamita to kung naka-X pa. E wala man tayo value nga 8 di adto. Pero naka-Z-score na ganin ni siya, or naka-Z, dahil na less than, you can automatically find the area of this one or the probability using that table. So let's look for Z, kaning Z column of negative 2.0. Dahil taas, kaning naka-dark bitaw class, kaning naka-dark color ng mga number sa taas. That's 0.00, 0.01, 0.02. Look for 0.00 lang kay negative 2.0 naman atong gipangita. Not unless if we're looking for negative 2.02, o nang huwag to ta sa negative 2.0 then sa taas 0.02. Okay, to add the locking value. So 2.0 o 0.02 sa taas. So imo nang i-cross niya mo din na iyahang area or mo na iyahang probability. Okay, now let's take a look at negative 2.0. What is the value? Ito mo din pangita. Negative 2.0. What is the value class? Dayon, ang sa taas, 0.00 lang. Dayon, iyahang cross tabulation. Okay, that's 0.0.
0228, ma'am.
Okay, 0.0228. Okay, so that's negative 2.0. Okay, 0.0228. Very good. So, basically, the area to the left of probability of x lesser than 8 is approximately, the probability of x lesser than 8 is also approximately 0.0228 or 2.28%. I-take note na ninyo ha. Next, agto ta sa z greater than 2. So, muna ni siya. So, that's 2.28%. So, basically, the answer for number 1 is the probability daw of getting crabs smaller or less than 8 centimeter is around 2.28%. Next, let's take a look at probability of z greater than 2. So what do you do here is to find the value of positive 2. Positive 2 nga value. So what is the value? 2.0. What's the value, class?
Pwede mo tanaw sa table, ma'am.
Ha? Oh,
Katawid.
sorry.
Wala lang mo, ma'am.
Wala na ko na share. Sorry. Ako nang gi-share. Wala na rin ako gikuan kay dali ang transfer sa tab. Pila. Okay, good. That's good. It's 0.9772, right? Okay. Tingnan niyo mahitabo class kung kuan okay, very good. So, tingnan niyo mahitabo class kung ang area nimo is greater than. So, ingon po ninyo kung lesser than ang imong area, automatic you can find it in the table. But the problem is if it is greater than. Kay kung greater than magud siya, kailangan na to gamitan o concept siya sa normal distribution. Thus, we know that the total area is, at dali ha. Ayaw na lang dali. We know that the total area is 100% under the curve and above the horizontal axis. Minus the area to the left. Leaving us area to the right. So, muna siya nga concept. Kung greater than gani, ang inyuhang problem, search directly for the area or the probability and then subtract it to 1. Para ang nahitabo, 1 minus probability of the lesser than part, leaving the greater than part. So 1 minus 0.9772 is equal to 0.0228 or 2.28%. Okay? Okay? Nagkasinabtanay ba kita? Class? Okay pa ta? Okay ra? Nasabtan? Greater than, lesser than pamanta? Okay ra?
Ma'am, ma'am, so ang product sa greater than kay equal sa less than nga value.
No. Ang greater than is the difference between the whole area minus the lesser than area. So let me explain using this. Example lang, kumuha, di ba itong target sa problem 2 class is kaning 24 and above, kanang dark ayong nga pagka-shade. So ang gibuhat actually nato class is ang whole area aning normal distribution is 1 or 100%, di ba? Naana siya nga property sa probability. Ang whole area ani is 1 or 100%. Minusan nimo og from 24 to the left. Kung sa'y mabilin. I-minus nimo ang kaning medyo dark plus white part o kaning light part. So ang mabilin na lang kaning dark part. Ingon ko sa inyo ha, ang mga area nga atong ang gipang-compute antong nga table is from the center, meaning pwede siya from 24 to the left. Puro siya to the left ba? Wala siya center to the right. Always to the left iya mga computation. Muna kung naay to the right or greater than nga problem, ang ginabuhat namo is whole area sa normal distribution, that's 1 or 100% minus the area to the left. Nakuha ninyo? Nasabtan ninyo? Okay ra? Muna siya ang nahitabo diri, ngani ni siya ang nahitabo. 1 minus probability of C lesser than. Ngano sa first problem, wala man ko naging ana. Because when we find areas to the left of Z, automatic you can use it directly. But when we find areas greater than na part, hindi man ta nato na makit-an diretsyo, but we can use the whole area minus to the left. Kaya to the left man nga computation. Meaning, ang computation sa table class from negative infinity to the center. So, unsa ko man nimo kung gikan sa center to the right, wala kay buhat mo. Well, dili na nimo automatic makit-an. But you can do you can do complementary. Mura ba siya o ano siya? X plus 2 equals 4. Karon unsaon nimo pagpangita ang value sa X? Unsaon nimo pagpangita ang value sa X class?
Transfer ang kuan mo. Ang 2.
Transfer ang 2 sa PCAS. So, bali ang 4 minus na kog 2. So, you'll have 2. So, mo po na siya diri. Kay, probability of Z greater than 2 plus probability of Z less than 2 is equal to 1. Karon unsaon ako pagpangita ang probability of Z greater than 2? Siya may X karon.
Insay question, ma'am?
Okay, ang question ako is probability of Z lesser than 2 plus probability of Z greater than 2 is equal to 1. Karon, nakoy value sa z lesser than 2, which is 0.9772. Kung saan na po pagpangita ang value sa z greater than 2,
gi-transfer to nimo ang kuan ma'am katong na value para makuha to nimo ang
okay, so transfer na po ang na-value which is ang lesser than para makita na po ang greater than. Nasabtan ninyo?
Sabdan, ma'am.
Okay, so muna siya ang concept diri. Alagig mo na siya nga concept. Mas dali siya sabton, di ba? Kamantay mo. Kay, ang naay mga value ang mga lesser than. Kaning z less than 2 o greater than 2, i-add na nimo silang duha nga area, 1 or 100% na siya. Pero ang naanay value kay ang lesser than. Karon kay ang x value kay ang greater than man. So para ma-find nato ang value sa x which is ang probability of z greater than, ibali na ko ang z lesser than, i-minus na ko siya sa 1 to find the value of z greater than. So ingana na siya ang concept. Isabtan ninyo? Okay?
yes ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, at least nasabtan na di ay. Okay. Now, let's proceed sa kuan. Actually, class, before, when I discuss normal distribution and its application, I need 1 hour and a half to explain. This time, kay naisa raman siya tanan sa isa ka term. So, munang, I have to try to explain it kanabito medyo fast. Pero kanang masabtan ko din nyo. Okay? This time, the area is at the center. Kung nakita ninyo, kani siya, medyo light colored, 16 to 24 na problem. Okay. So ganiha, the probability of catching crabs greater than 24 is 2.28%, di ba? Karon agto ta sa ikatulo, in between. Siya. So, kung in between kani siya class, ingani yung buhaton. Kani siya, this is problem number 3. This will answer probability of catching crabs between 16 to 24 centimeter. So, to find areas in between, kailangan lang nato, di ba, kwaon ang area to the left of z lesser than 2 minus to the left of z lesser than 0. So we already know that the area to the left of 2 is 0.9772 and to the left of 0. So ako ani siya i-share. So makita ninyo siya sa pinaka upper part sa left. May doon sa inyo. Left part, di ba? 0.0. Then sa taas, that's 0.00. That's 0.5. Okay? Just to show you nga one, okay? So, asa naman po? Okay. So, muna siya, basta the area is at the center, you find the area to the left of the one at the right side minus to the left of the one on the left side. So, ana lang siya. So, di bali, kung sa drawing pa, meaning, from 24, padulong sa left. Pero ang problema na, ay sobra ra po kayo na sa atong gikinahanglan. Minusan na lang nato og area from 16 to the left, leaving us the area at the center. Because again, the computed area sa atuang table class is from negative infinity to any value at the center. Okay, questions, clarifications before we proceed. Questions sa normal distribution. Hello, walay question? Nasabtan ra? If none, then let's proceed to regression analysis. So, sa regression analysis class, ang iyang target is to be able to predict values of dependent variable kanang mu sub y, that's your population mean man actually, mu sub y equal to alpha plus beta x, meaning whatever is the dependent variable, given values of independent variable, we will be able to predict values of the independent variable. Okay, in this case, class, our dependent variable is weight, di ba? Inyong weight, class, is very much dependent sa inyong height. So, for example, two persons with the same structure or pare-pareho forma, talawas, with differing weights, meaning, differing heights, ang isa medyo taas kayo, ang isa mubo kayo, mag-differ yun ang gihapon ilang weight. Kay the higher the height of a person, basically mataas yun ang iyahang weight. So that is with your independent and dependent variable. In our case, class, our dependent variable is atong weight. Atong independent variable is our height. So let's just learn some concept. How much would an adult female weigh if she were 5 feet tall, or basically 60 inches tall? So, a 60 inches tall person might weigh differently, di ba? Kung ang height na ako is 60, laylay yun na possibly akong weight. So, this distribution is normally distributed. So, what would you expect for other heights? So, kung 64 ang height, 64 centimeter ang height, pila man po ang niyang possible weight? Kung ano yung possible weight niya, kung 68, mo po niya ang possible weight and it's a normal distribution. Now, where would you expect that through this square regression line? So, it is actually at the mean of the distribution. Muna siyang mean or mu sub y, meaning mean sa imuhang y. Ang ginatan ang linear regression. Now, what is regression analysis? So, regression analysis, class, is a statistical method that makes use of the relationship between two or more quantitative variables. So, the dependent or response variable, para gihaganiha imong weight, can be explained with the knowledge of the values of the other variable called the independent variable. So the two main purpose of regression is to make relationship between two or more variables, and number two, to predict or estimate values of dependent variable from the known values of independent variable. So the term simple in simple linear regression is used when we consider only one independent variable. Thus, the line with best fit is that line such that when the differences between the actual values of y and the predicted values of y based on the regression line for each x are squared and the sum is minimum. So, dili na ito na ikuanan, kaya na naman in-summarize na ni siya dari. Basically, the mean response mu sub y has a straight line relationship with x. So that's mu sub y equal to alpha plus beta x. Kaning regression model, class, is basically mura na ni siya og ang concept ani niya is katong linear equation sa inyong algebra. Y equal to ax plus c, y equals to 2x plus 3, y equal to 3x plus 4, kato siya, muna siya nga concept ang gikuhaan anto. Imong slope, beta, and intercept, yes, magpayong.
Ma'am, pareha na siya sa y is equal to mx plus b?
Pareho ra.
Okay.
Pareho ra. Kanang muna siya gikuhaan og concept, pero usahay, thank you. Sa regression lang, na of statistics, na yun may gina-consider na errors. Pero muna siya nga concept, alpha plus beta x. Kay slope man ang beta, dayon ang imong alpha r. Imong alpha is the intercept of your line. Okay. So, for any fixed value of x, the response y varies according to a normal distribution. Repeated responses of y are independent of each other. So, the standard deviation of y, your y, sigma sub y, is the same for all values of x. The sigma sub y is also an unknown parameter. This time, we will estimate beta, katong beta ninyo class, kani murag b bitaw, and alpha using a. So, our b is the regression coefficient, or basically this is the slope of the regression line. Diba? Kung slope, kung pasak ka, positive, kung downward ang line, negative. A is the constant of regression, or the y-intercept of the regression line. So b is equal to n summation of x sub I, y sub I, minus summation of x sub I, x summation of y sub I, over n summation of x sub I square minus summation of x sub I quantity square. A is equal to y bar, meaning y, minus b x bar. So to further emphasize those concepts, let us have this example. Last year, 5 randomly selected students took a math aptitude test before they began their statistics course. The statistics department has the questions. What linear regression equation best predicts statistics performance based on math aptitude score? So, ang atong dependent variable dari class is actually our statistics grade. And if a student made an 80 on the aptitude test, what grade would we expect her to make in statistics? So, muna siya. Our aptitude test score is in X. Our statistics grade is in Y. So, kanira kung i-given ang X of Y. So, what is the value of X, Y, X squared, and Y squared? Kamo na mag-compute, ana. Okay? Then after computing that, you get the sum of X, sum of Y, sum of XY, sum of X squared, and sum of Y squared. Thus, our sum of X is 390, the sum of Y is 385, the sum of XY is 30,500, the sum of X squared is 31,150, and the sum of Y squared is 30,275. Now, note that, kanang 1/5, pwede gahapon na ninyo i-over sa 385 ha. 385 is the sum of Y divided by the total number of respondents. You have 5. So you have Y bar, meaning the mean of Y, as 77. Next is X bar. Pwede ra gihapon ninyo ang 5 i-over na sa 390 ha, to get the mean of X. So that's 390 over 5, which is equal to 78. Thus, B is equal to 5 times 30,500. Kani siyang 5 is the number of students. 30,500 is summation of XY. 390 is the summation of X. 385 is summation of Y. Over 5 is the summation, the number of students. 31,150 is the summation of X square minus summation of X quantity square, giving us B equal to 0.64. Then A is equal to 77, that's Y bar, minus B X bar. So B is 0.64 times X bar as 78. Thus, the regression equation for this data is actually y hat. Kanina akong gamitan, dili ta mo gamit atong mu sub y because we are only estimating. So the estimator of mu sub y is y hat equal to your intercept, that's A, that's 27.08 plus bx. So that's 0.64x. Thus, if a student made an 80 on the aptitude test, her expected grade in statistics would be this one. Y hat equal to 27.08 plus 0.64 times 80. This is equal to 78.28 or approximately 78. Question before we proceed sa correlation analysis. Question.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Sige.
Ma'am, pwede ibalik niyo sa previous slide. Wala kayo pasabot, ma'am. Ay.
Kani, asa man yung slide? Tingnan ko stop ha. Kani?
Ay, kanang after siguro, ana, ma'am.
After ana, kani.
Kana, ma'am, kana.
Okay, asa, sige, kani, mag-start na sa Y bar. Okay? Okay. Ang Y bar, pila sum sa Y base, ani nga table. I-take note na, that's 385. Diba? Ang sum sa X is 390. Ang sum sa XY is 30,500. Ang sum sa X squared is 31,150. Then ang sum sa Y squared is 30,275. Now, note that kailangan magud na to computon ang Y bar and X bar as well as B before we can compute for A as the intercept for our regression line. So, Y bar is equal to 385, meaning ang total sa imuhang Y divided by the number of students. Kaya naman kay 5 ka students, dali. So, that's 385 divided by 5, which is equal to 77. Next is your X bar. Your X bar is equal to the summation of X, which is 390 divided by the number of students you have, that's 5. So 390 over 5 is 78. Next, your B. B is equal to N. Ang N mo is number of respondents, that's ato na ibalik kaya para makita ni mo formula for a while na para ma-compare na itong formula, balik ka sa PICAS.
Ma'am, so kung kuan lugar ma'am, so ang formula lugar sa pagkuha sa Y bar ma'am is total number of X over N.
Ang Y bar?
Oo ma'am. Total number of Y over N.
Oh, yes, ana lang katong mean ragod nga basic mean.
Okay ma'am.
Mura na siya, oo. Ay saka kung gitarong niya ang slide. Okay, para mas mumatch siya. Balihin sa ako sa PICAS. And then, I will do. Okay, so ingana. I hope that's clearer. Okay, wala man ako na match yung formula. Okay. So, ang Y bar, basically, mura na siyang mean good sa Y. I-add nimo kung pila sila i-add nimo ilang mga values, i-divide kung pila sila kabuo. So, ano lang. So, ang sum sa Y is 385 divided by 5. So, ang mean po sa X is i-add nimo kung pila sila kabuo. Dayon, i-add nimo ilang values, dayon, i-divide kung pila sila kabuo. So, that's 5. Now, let's proceed to B. So, N is 5. Ayun, summation of Xi, Yi is 30,500 based on the previous na value. That's 30,500. Then, 390 is the sum of X. Then, 385 is the sum of Y. Base ani. Over N, that's 5. Then summation of Xi square is 31,150. Minus summation sa X, that's 390, pero square pa siya. So if you multiply the numerator, then subtract that. So that's 5 times 30,500. So 5 times 30,500. So that's 152,000 minus the product of 390 times 385. minus 152,500. So that's 2,350. I-divide mo ang denominator po na part, you will end up having 0.64 as beta nimo. Okay? Nasabtan ra kay at least na tapat na sila sa ilang formula. Okay, question.
Sabdang dramat. Thank you.
Okay. Kasi ako sa ibalhin ko na before ko mo proceed. Budget na ako sa transference na ako ni formula para magtapat yung siya formula. So, asa na ta, we'll proceed now to correlation analysis. So, ganyan class, ang regression analysis, it attempts to create a regression equation line. Kanang nga regression equation line can be able to aid us in predicting values of dependent variable given values of independent variable. Ang correlation analysis, iyahang buhaton is maghimo na siya or it attempts to measure the strength of the two variables by means of a single value. So ang sample correlation coefficient na itong value is actually this one. Ano siya? Ang iyang formula, parintira kayo siya sa B, pero ang denominator na gamay ang naalay ng divide ng gamay. So here are some scatter plots class of our linear scatter plots ato ang mga relationship between two variables. Kung ang inyahang data points lie upward or downward trend, then there exists a linear relationship between x and y. Pero just like kung pareho po sa right side nga medyo mo curve gamay ang imuhang graph or naagyoy klaro nga curve, then there is a curvy linear relationship sa duha. But what we are concerned is ang linear relationship ra. If data points are actually have an upward or downward trend, pero close gani kayo ang points along a straight line, strong ang relationship sa duha. Meaning, the other variable is a good predictor for the other variable. Whereas if the data points might have an upward or downward trend, but the data points are quite scattered, so the relationship might be weak in this case. Sorry. So kung ingani, mura siya nag-follow o straight line, horizontal line, or kanang wala gyud kay makit-an maka-pattern, then wala relationship sa duha. So here are some approximate values of R. So when R is equal to -1, then R follows a straight line going down. Just like your B, if ay slope man siya, kung ang data points going down, basically expect your B to be negative. Kaya ang B of ang R, pareha na silang sign. If there seems to be a downward trend, but the data points are quite clustered around the regression line, then R becomes -0.6 basta downward. Pero if it quite follows a horizontal band or horizontal line, then R is 0, meaning walang relationship sa duha. Meaning the other variable is not a predictor for the other variable. Just like your study hours cannot predict the number of milk tea that you drink. Murag nga na siya ba? Dili, wala sa relationship sa mga study hours of number of milk tea. Murag nga na siya ba? Wala siya relationship with ang duha. If your data points has an upward trend pero quite scattered na siya, then R is positive pero medyo close siya sa 0. That's 0.3. And if it follows a straight line, grabe na yun ka-perfect ang relationship. So R is equal to +1. Because R ranges from -1, meaning perfectly inversely related, or positive 1, perfect ang positive relationships at 1. So here are some suggested interpretation for R. Ato na tanaw later. So mo ni siya atong kuan kaganiha. Ang ato ang gamiton gahapon nga values. So we have here the aptitude test score, your statistics grade, XY, X squared, and Y squared. Okay. So N, summation of XI, YI, that's 30,500. Minus summation sa X, that's 390, times summation sa Y, over the square root of N, that's 5, then summation of X squared, that's 31,150, minus summation sa X, that's 390 quantity square, times 5 times 30,275 summation sa Y square, minus summation sa Y, that's 385 quantity square. Computing the value gives us R equal to 0.99. Going back to its interpretation gives us R that is good, having a good to strong relationship R, meaning strong ang relationship between sa aptitude test score and your statistics grade. Also, naku gi-add on that's R squared, that is sample coefficient of determination. That explains kung pila ka variation ang ma-explain sa X given sa Y given different values of X, meaning around 98.01%. And that ends our lesson. Question. Question. Okay, so if there are no more questions, I want the two to stay, Soria and Escobio. Please.
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, katabi tang solution last kada sa katong last na
Tiles.
of kay akong gi-unsubmit ma'am kay nasayop na ko butang. Then ako to pong na Google form, ako pong gi-submitted, submit na ko otro kay anay solution. Na dito solution insert na ko o balik.
What's your last name?
Silvano ma'am.
Silvano.
Oh,
Nakita naman ako. Nakita na ako.
sige ma'am, thank you.
Na-check ran ako.
Thank you.
Unsa pa?
Excuse me, ma'am. Kanang kuan siya, ma'am. Katong approximate value, ma'am, is constant ba to yung number, ma'am?
Kasi approximate value.
Katubitang na ay araw-araw katong if kuan ba siya ang iyahang is normal ba to siya, ma'am? Katubitang na circle, something there. Katong na plus sa
Ay, katong approximate value.
yes, ma'am. Kato siya, ma'am. Constant to yung number ato, ma'am.
Asa ka dyan lang. Ni, mo gimin?
Yes, ma'am. Constant na siya, ma'am.
Ay, dili, approximate naman siya. Approximate raman siya, bali, vary siya, pwede siya po, negative 0.6, pwede po doon sa 0.6.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, kuan lang ba, ginatanaw raman good, base raman good sa data points. Usahay kung medyo dugol ang data points, manggod, medyo muduol po na siya sa negative 1 kung pa-down ang trend. Pero kung pasaka po ang trend anaw niya, dugol po ang data points na naara na sa 0.8, 0.6, 0.7, so depende na siya. Muna siya ginatawag siya, approximate siya. Pero kaning R equal to 0, R positive 1, o R negative 1, fixed na din siya. If this follows a straight line, upward or downward, kung downward siya, R is equal to negative 1. Kung upward po siya, it's positive 1. Okay?
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, Hadman.
Ma'am, excuse me, ma'am. What if kanang dako kayo ang kanang bitang iyahang periya bitaw sa kaning imong gihatag nga activity, ma'am, na dako kayo ang ilahang interval niya. Pag imo siyang pag ma-solve dayon siya kay kanang wala bitaw anang kaning sa R na
Dili. R ranges from negative 1 to positive 1.
oh ma'am, if
So-
kanang lahos ana ma'am ang kanang result.
No, wrong. Wrong. Dili na mo.
Pero ang example atong sa grades kanang mahimo na to siyang decimal or kanang whole value dito siya nga kuan.
Asay grades.
Dako.
Another nga slide.
Ano ma'am, kanang
Okay.
naglantaw ko sa kanang imong hatag bitaw nga activity, then if katong duha kay mo to ang dependent and independent variable o niya, dako bitaw kayo siya og kanang interval ma'am niya. Pag imo siyang pag isolve dayon siya kay kanang lagi dako kay interval, so magabot din sa kuan sa R kay maglahos siya sa 1 na katong kaan gihatag ng mga slide. If inana ma'am ang situation.
Sunod lang ninyo ha, paris-paris sa ni siya. 4 parisan og 80, 1 parisan og 71 ana ha. Away lang ha. Bali lagyo ang values, you mean. Kay ang isa is 1, 2, 3, ang isa 85 ana lugar. Dili na siya. Masolve na siya. Masolve na siya. Na siya yung correlation coefficient ng value. I-try lang. I-add ang x, i-add ang y, then i-product. Masolve na siya. Na siya yung kauling value. Don't worry. Basta determine properly ha your x and y. Yes, Sorya.
Ma'am, di ba ang representation sa independent is Y and ang representation sa dependent is X?
X is your independent, Y is your dependent. Di ba kaganiha ang nasa y-axis is your weight because your weight is dependent on your height which is your x-axis. So ang weight ang atong gi-try og estimate.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Ma'am, 5:30 gid ang deadline ani ma'am.
No, nagsabot na taan na sa activity. Ang
11:59, ma'am ba?
Yes.
As active.
Ma-turn in late lang siya iyang mga declaration. We can change man, kaya lang ka nagpuan ko na nagpuan. Akong nagabiko akong I'll just change the due date for a while. 4 to 5:30, no? PM? PM pa ba ito? Dalawa daw. Na-change na ba? Na-change na? Ang deadline?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, unsa pa question before we go, I will be talking to Soria and Scopio. Nalako ito, sir, actually. If there are no more concerns, katong students na wala na concerns, you can go katong wala na concerns. Yes, Ilumba.
Ma'am, kani approximate R values, unsa ano pag-estimate sa number ani mo gawas ni sa exam, ma'am? Unsa ano
Ano yung
pag
approximate or
kaning naay kuan bitaw?
ay kana sa slide na ako?
Kanang ipangutana ni Princess.
Kuha na siya, kanang concept ra na siya. Concept ra na siya.
Okay, ma'am.
Posible ingana ang data points mo na siya, close na siya sa kuan. Pero
Okay.
of course, nagyo mga mo na yung part, analytical part yun na siya nga. Unsa kay basta kay gitagana ko mo concept, kamo ni mo analyze later.
Okay,
Posible mo gawas, posible po dili, okay? Yes. Katong kuan, isa kay host ani basta mawala ko kape. Sige lang. Katong wala nay kuan concerns, you can start your activity because I will be talking pa to Soria. Hopefully na si Scopio. Scopio, are you here? Soria na lang. Okay.
Hi, ma'am.
Bye-bye. 11:59, don't forget.
Bye, ma'am. Thank you,
Bye,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.